Adam Roberts has had a lengthy career as an animal protection advocate and expert. He joined me in studio earlier to describe the various threats that red pandas face.
Well, I think the biggest challenge is that the red panda has such a huge habitat through southern Asia, China, Myanmar, Bhutan, India, Nepal, and they live in the bamboo forests and they need the bamboo to survive. 98% of their diet is from eating bamboo, but when you have deforestation at the level that it is right now in that region of Asia, it's very hard for the species to survive. So on the one hand, they're losing the habitat that they so desperately need, but on the other hand, as the habitat, the forests are depleted, they're being more and more exposed to hunters. So people are hunting red pandas now because they can see them without the forest cover for their fur. They're capturing them in snares when they go out to hunt for deer or wild pigs. And then they're also starting increasingly to capture them live for the exotic pet trade.
I think of pandas, and I think they even were described once as the lesser panda. I mean, competing with the black and white panda, everybody's in love with that panda. Everyone's aware of the issues. It doesn't seem like the red panda, it's the same sort of thing. How do you break through the clutter, get the message out?
Of course, the giant panda, the big black and white one that most people are familiar with, very different, completely different species than the much smaller red panda. So we have to realize that they have different challenges, different needs in the wild. But I think because there's been so much attention paid to the giant panda, there's actually a chance for the species survival. Ironically, there's only 1,800 giant pandas left in the wild, but the population is stable to increasing, whereas the red panda has 10,000, 5 times as many, but the population is decreasing. So as we learn more about species like the red panda that really need our help, we're able to focus our conservation efforts in the wild to protect them.
We've done so many stories on breeding when it comes to the black and white panda. And I was reading, an expert was talking about the breeding of the red panda. They say the population is not growing particularly well, and it's not as secure or stable as we might think, even though it seems like in many respects it's easier to breed a red panda. Kind of just lay that out for us.
Just because we're breeding them in captivity doesn't mean they're surviving in captivity. And there has been case after case in North America of red pandas being bred in zoos, but then dying. They're falling from trees, they're getting fungal infections, enlarged hearts. There was even a case just outside of Washington, D.C. in a zoo where pandas came down from the trees to the ground and ate rat poison and died. So just because they're in captivity doesn't mean they're safe. But then the other problem is they're being bred in captivity but not released to the wild, where the wild places that they need to survive are being protected. So it's really just a collection of individual animals on display in zoos rather than a true conservation effort to keep them safe in the wild.
For much of your career, you're trying to inspire people to get involved, get active, try and do something in terms of conservation. Any message to our viewers about what they can do about the red panda?
Well, I think the biggest thing is to learn more about these issues, because then we can figure out where our conservation efforts must be, where our advocacy efforts, who to write to implore them to protect the species in the wild, and then urge governments around the world, whether it's the Chinese government or others, to do more to protect the species. Make sure the habitat is safe, higher penalties for people who poach the red panda, and do all we can to keep the habitats connected so that the species, the individual animals, don't get exposed to the hunters.
Adam Roberts, always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.